Welcome to the Tavern Between Dimensions, a monthly tabletop podcast. My name is Carl Duelist, and I shall be your bartender for your time here today. Joining me for service is the Dungeon Master to the Explorers of Elsewhere, Dan Tyree.
Hello!
And the stunt double for Roach in the Witcher TV series, Anton Bain.
Hello.
Hello guys, how are you today?
Not bad. The sun is finally showing its cowardly face across the British Isles.
Yes, I've had my windows open today. It's been glorious. Even had a meeting in the garden.
Have we just outed ourselves as middle-aged men because we immediately started talking about the weather?
Yes, we have. And unfortunately, that's now out there for the whole world to know.
It begins.
And Anton?
Yeah, everything's good. Can't complain. It'll be a good session out tonight.
Yes,
Are you desperately trying not to talk about the weather?
Yes, absolutely.
Because this isn't a weather podcast, you know that.
It is not
Right.
a weather podcast. Right, well, in that case, I think we should jump straight into it before we make ourselves any older. So firstly, we go into BYOB, where we make wacky and interesting builds. Anton, take it away.
Sure. So for this special edition of BYOB, we are changing the format up a bit. We used to have 2 builds, and we went, no, that's too much, not enough time to talk about everything. So we're going to be doing only 1 build this time. Each player is going to bring their own, and we will be judging them and discussing the build that they bring. So Carl, what is the concept behind the character?
Well, long ago, this character was wandering the land with his brethren, fighting all sorts of evil until they were tragically slain.
Okay.
And that was the end of the character. Yeah, I mean that was the end of the character. Really, I had this really good idea, and then he died. So
that was it. Wait, so this was a character you played?
Yes, this was a character I played, but this all happened long before I played him, because for some reason, even though he died, this man walks the earth again.
Okay. What is the race then of this character?
Well, originally they were human, but you could say now they've been reborn as something different. This is one of the lineages from the Van Richten Guide to Ravenloft. Originally they were actually a revenant when I played them, but as revenants were from Unearthed Arcana and haven't been made into any official publications, and we do things officially here at BYOB, I've decided to change things up and instead pick Reborn for this character.
So Carl, what is the class of your character?
Well, this character, obviously it's going to be a multi-class, because we don't do just straight builds here in BYOB. Why would we? Now, I've started by taking Fighter.
Okay.
Particularly for the Samurai subclass. So I've started there, moved into Samurai subclass, and through the actions of his journey, eventually he slips into Rogue.
Okay, that's a good combo. Fighter Rogue. Makes sense. So you're probably going for a Dex build on that.
Yes, this is entirely Dex build. Strength is not anywhere in sight.
Which makes sense. And then what is the background of your character?
Well, being a samurai, obviously being as part of a group of samurai originally, I've gone with soldier, because it just sort of made most sense that he would still retain that sort of memory of working with others, even though he may not be anymore.
Gotcha. So basically what you have for us is a pseudo-undead fighter, rogue, multi-class soldier samurai.
I would refer to him as an undead Ronin, as he is no longer a samurai. He is...
what is a Ronin?
A Ronin is a wandering samurai, so usually one who has... masterless samurai. So this character is a masterless samurai, basically. Ego Ronin.
Awesome. So, Carl, what have you done stat-wise with the character?
So I've had to do this a little differently from when I originally played it, because back as a Revenant, I actually dump-stacked Constitution, because Revenant gave you the skill that as long as you're under half HP, you could always regain 1 HP. So even if I got knocked down to 0, I'd always get up to 1. But with Reborn, that isn't the case. So, as I said, Strength is not being considered. So Strength I've done as 10. With everything at the moment, so how I've kind of got it with all the Fighter and Rogue, I've managed to get up to Dex 18, so that's a +4.
Sure.
My constitution, 14, so not a dump stack on this one because you need health to survive, especially if you've...
in the front line.
Exactly, in the front line. Intelligence is my dump stack here, so I've actually put that down to 8.
Okay.
In the original day, that would have actually been swapped with con, so con would have been the 8 and intelligence would have been the 14.
Okay.
I've made wisdom quite high, and there's a reason I've done that for the concept. So wisdom is 15, so that's a +2.
Right. Okay.
And his charisma is 12. And wisdom's actually been boosted up through the ability scores as well, but we'll get to that as and
Okay.
when.
Why have you gone for wisdom 15?
So the way this character was built is originally he's been fighting, trying to maintain that sort of samurai way of life, but the longer he's been going on, he's actually ended up becoming a bit of a vigilante. So he used the wisdom for things like the perception to sort of see things happening on the street. Obviously, you could swap that with intelligence. If you wanted to play a more of a Batman-esque, obviously give him investigation with the intelligence. But I went for the perception so he's more aware of what's going on, so he can kind of see things. He's not actively looking for it. He's just there, hanging out, looking for things.
Okay, that makes sense. And then proficiency-wise, I see you've got proficiency in strength and con saving throws. But you also at one point gain proficiency in wisdom, and I think we'll get to that eventually. Correct?
Yeah, that comes later, depending on how you want to build the character. It's not important, but it benefits you later down the line if you want to go down that route.
And then you've gone acrobatics, athletics. Makes sense if you're a physical kind of character.
Also, if you're a vigilante leaping from rooftop to rooftop.
That's true. Perception, as you mentioned, you got a +6 in there. So that makes sense. So you've got persuasion at 5, I see.
Yeah, persuasion actually gets a bonus later down the line. So I've picked persuasion because by not picking it, you're actually going to lose out some of the benefits of samurai if you go down that route. If you don't keep going down the fighter path, this isn't actually that important. But because I've gone down there, you want to take persuasion at this point.
That's right. The samurai subclass has a specific section where it increases or uses your persuasion score. Correct?
That is correct. It gives you advantage on
Yes,
persuasion
checked.
because obviously your discipline helps you out in that regard. So yes.
Okay, and I see you also have proficiency in dexterity, stealth. That makes sense. Okay. So I kind of get the idea. Yeah, I get the idea of the character a bit better now. Your hit points, it's pretty standard, and your strength 30 feet. Nothing special.
Nothing special. The hit points are quite high because again for the constitution, especially as you are going to be slightly a frontline fighter with this one, to a point.
Yeah. So can you give us a rundown on kind of the abilities and feats you get as you level up? So it's going to be fighter abilities and then rogue abilities.
Yeah.
And maybe a feat thrown in there.
With the fighter, with samurai, fighting spirit is the main thing you want here. It's the reason I've sort of gone down it. It's as a bonus action, you can give yourself advantage on every single attack you can make until the end of the turn. Very particular in my wording there. It also gives you 5 temporary HP. So again, with the high HP that I've got there, 5 extra is a bit of a nice buffer zone. But you can use that 3 times a day.
Yeah, so fighting spirit, I kind of imagine that feature kind of being a bit like rage, but you're not raging because you get advantage on those attack rolls. And you're also getting that extra temp HP, which is kind of a bit like raging and mitigating the damage that way.
I see it more as a Kurosawa scene. That it's more that you are waiting, sword still sheathed, watching for that right moment as the enemy runs at you to pull it out quickly. I think it's more that you're observing your enemy, looking for the right point to strike. Okay. That's how I see it.
Well, I think you're working on the visual, I'm working on the mechanics.
Exactly, yeah.
which is just typical of BYOB. But yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. So you got that feature, which is very nice. And which you can only use it 3 times per long rest.
That is correct, yes. But
and that's,
I keep it for a particular thing, and that's where I'll get to later, the point of why I've built this character the way I have.
All right, next up.
Yeah, so next up, I have, as a feat, so instead of taking an ability score increase, I took Defensive Duelist, which is basically you can use reaction to add your proficiency onto your AC.
That's very useful because you actually don't have a use for your reactions. So taking that feat actually gives you the ability to do that.
Yeah, and again, in that sort of like aesthetic thing, it's being able to sort of fight and keep your sort of allies alive. So you could be a bit of a frontline fighter with this one. Yeah, exactly. It's like parry, but without obviously the return strikes and everything. But it's a good one because, you use it as your reaction. and keeps you alive for that little bit extra.
What are you using as your weapons? You're dual wielding, correct?
That is correct. He's dual wielding, and again, we'll get to why later. So ideally, you're going to take a katana, and I apologize for pronunciation, a wakizashi.
Okay.
But obviously, those don't exist in the game. So, anything that is like finesse, so like a finesse slashing weapon. So scimitar, and then I kind of took a short sword as the other one there. But basically, 2 light weapons to use because you want to be sort of quite mobile.
With the D6 die.
Exactly, yeah. I kind of went up to level 5 with a fighter for now to get the extra attack because that's quite important. And that's when I started dipping into rogue because at that point, his idea of trying to maintain being a samurai was starting to break down. He was becoming more this vigilante more and more. Even kept his Oni mask to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. But then I started dipping into rogue. And I took 3 levels of rogue to get assassinate. Because the idea of this character is, at this later stage, if you've played Ghost of Tsushima, it's the same sort of thing. He's now more sneaky, less frontal assault. It's more trying to get the drop on people. And there's a reason why these things have been picked in the way they have. I'm a big fan of the limit break from Final Fantasy. Particularly the Omni Slash.
What is the Omni Slash?
The Omni Slash is basically many sword strikes. I think in Final Fantasy it was something like Omni Slash was 15 hits, I think, but you can't get 15 hits in D&D. But you've got to try and get as many as you can. Gotcha. So I actually built this character as a boss killer. The idea would be, in normal combat, he would be quite defensive, ergo the defensive duelist, the high health, or with the Revenant just being able to get back up. But the idea is he's a samurai for those encounters. And then you get to the boss. As the later stage, rogue, you want to sneak in and get sort of the drop on them. Or if you can't do that, hope someone has haste and pushes you forward. But if that's not possible, run at them. Hit your fighting spirit to give yourself advantage on all your attacks. Take your 2 attacks. Then do your action surge.
So you're basically doing 4 attacks with advantage. And plus an extra 10 health speed.
Exactly. Which is a fantastic amount of attacks you're doing. You could forego the fighting spirit to do 5 attacks. But obviously 4 attacks with advantage is much better than 5 attacks without.
And plus you're getting sneak attack on one of those attacks.
Once you've taken rogue, that is correct.
You probably wait till the first 2 hit and then be like, okay, I didn't get a crit, so I'm going to do it on the 3rd one, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you're basically just whittling down that boss in such a quick turn. If you have a colleague with haste, it makes it even better because obviously you get an extra attack on there. So you're either getting, again, 6 or 7 attacks, depending on whether you use your fighting spirit. If they haven't acted yet, using your assassinate skill, you don't have to use the fighting spirit because you have advantage. If they're surprised, your hit is a critical. So the idea of this character is, again, the boss killer, the limit break. To walk in there, the green circle appears around you, and then just... I mean, I deleted a boss once, much to my DM's annoyance, because he had a big thing planned. This character jumps in. Thankfully, there was someone who could haste him as well. So he got hasted. He jumped in, deleted the boss in a turn. Because it was all just quick, high damage. I think I got crit in there as well because of the assassinate. It was just absolutely destroyed the boss.
And from that moment on, every monster in that world had the alert feat.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But you could work with DM. If your DM knows that you're going to have this, hopefully they would play into that one and maybe set things up like to make it that you could use that skill. If not, there are other ways you could take this character. There are other sort of subclasses you can take. I think someone suggested me once Kensai might be a good one, but I can't remember the exact reasons why I didn't take Kensai and went with Assassin instead.
At 7th level, you actually get some additional features from Samurai as well.
That is correct. So I would only push Fighter up to 7th level because you get a Wisdom saving throw as a result of that one as well. So as part of the 7th level skill, you get Proficiency, Wisdom saving throws, plus you get the advantage on the Persuasion checks. Yeah,
Correct.
which help out. But the way I kind of see this character is, again, you're the boss killer. You are fundamentally an assassin. You get in close. Your samurai days are over. You have started down this new lifestyle. You become, again, if you use Ghost of Tsushima, you become the ghost, or as I refer to him, he was the demon. So you become this vigilante. You become this monster of the underworld. You delete your DM's bosses in a barrage of assaults. And then I think the rest of it, just keep going down to rogue. Really start pumping up that sneak attack damage. Because once you get into that boss fight, you want as much burst damage as possible for your colleagues to then run on and just mop up whatever's left.
You're going to be, every 2 levels of rogue, you're going to be getting an extra d6, dice of damage. So you can just pump that up. And you get all the additional benefits of rogue. So
Exactly,
that makes sense. Unless you want to go to Fighter 11, which you could do. You could go Fighter 11, Rogue 9. That would be a pretty good combo, actually.
Yeah, you've got very two different ways you can take this character. You could either, again, maintain the sort of the Ronin path, if you will, and carry on down rogue for the sneak attack damage, or you could reattach yourself to your samurai roots, where you could then basically keep with the ability score increase, pump dex all the way, end up getting that extra action surge if you really sort of push it down that way. So you do have very two different routes you can go with this character, but the idea of him is just kill things, save your fighting spirits till you get to that boss fight, and then just bam, hit them with it.
One of the things I like about this is you've got 1 high wisdom, which is really cool for a whole bunch of checks. So you're actually useful out of combat. And the samurai giving you wisdom saving throws, that's also good for combat. But the advantage on persuasion checks gives another dimension to your character. That means you can actually do things, talk with people and negotiate and be that kind of person, that fighter that negotiates and strives for, call it peace if you want.
Yeah, and depending on how you want to play the character, if you want to keep going down the fighter route, you could start hitting those ability score increases into your constitution instead, if you want to be that sort of noble warrior, and go down that route.
Awesome. Dan, what are your thoughts on, I guess, the samurai subclass?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it feels like a lot of people look at the samurai class and then identify it as the free advantage, and usually they'll try and pair it with like an elf, so they get elven accuracy and get triple advantage and
yeah.
So, what we were talking about just a second ago, I really like the fact that, you get the persuasion bonus. There's a part of me that wishes that might come, if that turned up a bit earlier, that'd be nice.
Well, actually, even like if other fighters would have that option.
Oh, that.
I think the fighter as a class should actually have that option for a sort of RP skill that they can use.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because the samurai name, it carries so much kind of cultural connotation, so much cultural weight. I like that you can kind of, in a roundabout way, kind of recreate those kind of old black and white style movie samurais. Like you say, with a very kind of typical sword sheathed.
Yeah, I mean, Kurosawa is a big influence of mine when it came to creating this character and things, because I do love Kurosawa films. I thoroughly enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima, which again heavily influenced by Kurosawa.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that sort of aesthetic I know appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah, being able to what you've done here, just having a hilarious Nova capability. And I mean, at the end of the day, after that first turn, I mean, you're still a fighter rogue, right? So those are 2 dependable classes that can just keep going all day. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a sound build. And the reborn, I mean, that's I like seeing a lineage.
Yeah, so the Lynches are really interesting, especially with the Reborn, because it lets you keep your skill proficiencies from whichever base race you originally had, but it has its own ASI, so you get, I think it's 2 to any that you want, then 1 to a secondary, or 1 to 3 skills. So I obviously pushed into Dex and Whiz, but obviously it adds to that real horror element of this guy being the way I sort of play him was he'd go to a place. I mean, back when he was a Revenant, he could be reborn after 24 hours of being killed. So the idea is he went to a place to punish the evil. If he died, he'd just go back the next day, which
Kind
obviously
of a
is
Dark Souls thing going on there.
exactly. But
Yeah.
obviously, if you were a crime boss, suddenly being like, "Oh, well, we beat this supposedly super this guy who's been plaguing the city. We kill. Oh shit, he's back." You know.
Threw him in a river, and he's back.
Yeah, exactly. 24 hours, and it just became a war of attrition. But with this one, obviously, you've got the whole: you don't eat, you don't breathe, you basically lightly meditate instead of sleep. So there's a lot of horror things. You set fire to the building. You're not going to be worried about the smoke. You're walking through the smoke, this like demon mask on your face. It's just, I liked the aesthetic that Reborn gave. Plus, there is some things, if you get KO'd, you have advantage on your death saving throws, on poison saving throws. So that, again, resilience of getting up, being like, all right, let's carry on doing this, is great. And I like that idea for someone who is hell-bent on revenge and their body can't stop them.
Amazing. On the samurai subclass though, I will have my little nitpick.
Go for it.
Mostly with Wizards of the Coast, as I usually do in these segments.
Oh, here we go.
I do think the subclass is slightly underpowered. Mostly the feature is cool, having advantage on your turn. That's really cool. The extra temporary hit points, that's very evocative, all that. But you only get to use it three times per long rest. So if you're running a standard campaign, you should be having 3 sort of or 4 combat sessions per. So you're a normal fighter, and except for that one turn where you get to do something special. And I just find that, like, compared to the Battle Master gets to do 3 to 4 cool things every short rest.
I mean, any fighter subclass going up against the Battle Master is going to come up short. Like, the Battle Master is just a golden standard.
Yeah,
I think so, but it's like disappointing that Battle Master gets all these cool tricks and you get to think about what you can do next. Whereas you're a samurai, you literally are a one-trick pony. That you do that and then that's it.
I mean, theoretically, if you're going by the textbook Adventuring Day, the rule could be written, you can use it once per short rest, because you should be getting kind of 2 short rests in an Adventuring Day, so you should have like 3 segments. So if you use your 3 across your long rest, I guess the question is, if the rule said you can use this once per short rest, would we think any different of it?
I don't think it would be overpowered then. I think it'd be fine.
Yeah,
honestly.
I kind of agree with that. It being a short rest, because it was playing it did sometimes get annoying that you'd come up against maybe some normal minions, but the fight doesn't go your way, so you blow one of the fighting spirits. But obviously the idea is you always save one for the boss, because you want to get in, use it to get all those advantages. But the problem does lie, if you had it once per short rest, I think that would probably, work better. I mean, when you look at the other classes, like Monk gets its key, it just builds up its key, so it gets a lot more to play with. So the rest doesn't matter as much. Like even the Bard, very early on, it gets a point where it can be like, oh, you get them on short rests again instead of long rests,
And fighter as general is a short rest based class. So I don't understand why this feature was put as a long rest. I think if they put it as a short rest, maybe they could reduce the amount, be it twice per short rest, which I think would be, again, perfectly fair. Yeah. So I don't know, if I had a DM and I wanted to play Samurai, I'd be like, come on, give me something.
At 10th level, so only a little bit above this build at 10th level, if you don't have any at the start of combat, you regain 1 use. But that is quite a while to go 10 levels to be like managing three a day, when the monk at this point has 10 key, the bard is resetting on soft rest. So waiting 10 levels to suddenly make sure you have 1 every fight is it's a bit much.
Yeah.
Hey, at least it's not the Arcane Archer.
Yeah, correct. Arcane has a similar problem as well. It's like you get 2 shots and then you're done, or was it 3 shots? I don't remember. But that's it, and both of those have problems. I think, honestly, if I were playing those, I would speak with my DM and be like, I think this is underpowered. Do you agree? Can we change it? And it'll be way more fun to play. And it's just not even a question of it being trying to get more damage out. It's actually just being able to do more things that are interesting in a turn.
Yeah.
That's really what I want to get at.
As an aside, would it be better if you couldn't agree on a short rest, or would it be better if you got proficiency
times
usages, like some other classes now do? Like at this point in this build, if it's proficiency times, he'd be getting it 4 times a day.
I mean, that's slightly better. So, yeah, anything to bump that up would be good. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Carl, for the build. I think that was very, very interesting indeed. And we look forward to the next one.
Yes, we do. I mean, as I said, we're going to try and keep this format going forward, so we'll only produce one build, and it lets us spend a little bit more time on it as we have today. I think, one of our main concerns, we weren't spending enough time with each of these builds, but at least at this point, you should hopefully know them a bit better. As always, and at some point I'm going to keep to this promise, they should hopefully be available down below. But let's see if you can make this Ronin part of your game and see if he can strike fear into the hearts of his enemies, like he did in Ravnica, which is where he was actually based. But on that note, let's move on. Thanks for watching. Release segments like this from the Tavern Between Dimensions every Friday here on the Explorers of Elsewhere channel. Otherwise, if you want to listen to the episode in full, you can check us out on Spotify and Amazon Music.